Welcome to the Positively No Gambling podcast, the pro football show that is definitely not about betting. My name is Glenn Fraser. It's Monday, August 11th, and this is the 2025 team preview for the Detroit Lions. The Lions. Let's go. Okay, the format. Two big questions from the start of the offseason where we ask ourselves, what are the two big questions that this team needs to address in order to have a successful season? Then we'll recap 2024, overview 2025, look at some trends, look at some stats, some early leans from an against the spread standpoint, conclude on those two big questions that we asked, and give out a prelim over under pick for the season win totals. The final over under picks will be part of the conference previews, which will be posted right before the season kicks off. So with the Lions, obviously one of NFL's best teams, one of the most talented teams and successful teams last season. Questions surrounding them are, did they improve their defense? We'll talk about the loss of talent from a leadership perspective, and can they return to glory given their schedule? This is a brutal schedule, a lot of really tough opponents, and those are the questions that we will dive into. So to recap 24, this is going to break every heart of every Lions fan, but let's look at it. 14-2, first in the NFC North. They lost to the Commanders in that brutal division round Saturday night game. After splitting the first two and losing to Tampa in week two of last year, they rattled off 14 out of 15 wins, the only loss being that crazy game against Buffalo where a billion points were scored. They were 6-2 against playoff teams, including beating the Packers twice and the Vikings twice, and of course the Bears twice, but they are not playoff teams. But they were in what definitely was the best division in football. They were 6-0 in it. I mean, that was impressive. They had a tough-ish schedule, but nothing brutal. Uh, Anytime you're winning 15 games, the stats will tell you that you're overachieving a little bit uh, by two games. The Houston one, when Jared Goff threw a billion picks and they still won that game. I think that was Sunday night, week 10. And the Chicago Thanksgiving finish. Those are two games that they probably should have lost, but they won. Even if they lost them, though, you're still talking about a 13-win team. This is an incredible team. 7-2 in one score games, which contributes to this quote overachieving uh, result. Bottom line, one of the best teams in football, one of the most talented teams in football. Now, they lost both their coordinators. That was kind of the deal going into the season. It was pretty obvious that both Johnson and Glenn were going to get pretty much any job they wanted that was available to them, and they both kind of did. Johnson left for the Bears, obviously, and Glenn left for the Jets. So definite brain drain. Sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't. The most recent time, the example that a lot of people will point out is when Philly lost their coordinators 2 seasons ago and had a pretty rough season because of it. There's plenty of instances, though, where it's not as big of a deal. Okay, so to overview the offense, this is just visually speaking, this is stacked beyond stacked. This is an incredible offense. Now, big there are some notable things that happened over the offseason, right? Starting with Frank Ragnow retiring. Very talented center. That caught some people a little bit by surprise, at least in the public. I'm sure the team knew about it way before we did, but that's maybe a big deal. They lose Kevin Zeitler to Tennessee. Beyond that, nothing else really important. Uh, They did draft a guard, Tate Ratledge. He's going to get some snaps at center. So this is going to be interesting where this offensive line finalizes going into the season. So it'll be interesting there. They added Tristan Colon. So even though they had some interior line issues, they seem to at least try to address them. They added Isaac Tisla in the draft, which becomes another potential target for this very dynamic offense. Beyond that, this is pretty much the same. Blue chips, typo, but Jamar Gibbs, obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These are deathly talented guys. Penei Sewell, one of the absolute best linemen in football. Jameson Williams is one of the best wide receiver two targets in football. David Montgomery is an incredible running back. Sam Laporta, tight end. This is just a stacked skills position team. With Jared Goff, you got to give him a high grade. We all know his flaws. We all know his ceiling. But I think this team has proven that even without a top five, top three type quarterback, they are a tremendous offensive team. The X factor is going to be whoever ends up playing center. The guard center position on this team is going to be very important because it's either they've replaced Ragnow, they've plugged any holes on the interior, and they won't skip a beat, or it potentially becomes a flaw, potentially becomes a weakness that teams can prepare against. And this is definitely an offense that is so well honed and so unstoppable at times that if anything starts to break, it'll be interesting how they account for it, especially with new play callers, new coordinator this year. It's not a make or break. This is one of the best offenses in football. Now to the more interesting side of the ball, at least from a off-season perspective, which is the defense. Bunch of talent. A lot of this talent was hurt last year, including Aiden Hutchinson. That's why they were so impacted by those injuries last season, and it didn't really matter until it did, which was during the playoff game, and they just got picked apart by Jaden Daniels. Plus, they gave the ball over so many times. That game really is it's rough to think about as a Detroit Lions fan. But bottom line is, it's a talented defense that they really made some adjustments to in the offseason and really tried to bring in some guys that should move the needle. In terms of what they lost, they did lose a bunch of guys. None of them, maybe Carlton Davis matters. Maybe Zadarius Smith matters, but probably not. They did lose guys, but none of these were difference makers, really. And even if they were, I think the replacements they got are better, so they'll end up in a better spot on their defense, including DJ Reed, Tyleik Williams they took in the draft. He'll probably not start, but he definitely will be in this defensive line rotation. Another edge to point out, Ahmed Hassanian. They love this guy. They love this kid. Probably won't get a ton of playing time, but he's an interesting potential X factor here. Blue chips, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously coming off the injury. Be interesting to see if he returns right back to form or if it takes a couple of weeks or if he never gets back. Their safeties are tremendous, Branch and Joseph. They've got high potential guys on the interior line, Aleem McNeil, and in the linebacker and as a Mike linebacker, Jack Campbell. So really all aspects of this defense have some real top-notch blue chip talent. And it's going to come down to Aiden Hutchinson slash the other pass rushers, whether they can return to the top, near the top of the league, which I think a lot of people think they are. So very interesting defense for the Lions this season. And obviously the injury situation was brutal last season. And if they just get normal injury luck this year and normal play out of these guys, they're going to be one of the league's best defenses. Okay. Now, the people that are off the Lions this year, which I'm kind of in the middle, the reason why they're off the Lions this year is because of the brain drain, the loss of the coaches, and this schedule. This schedule is brutal. Either the third hardest or the second hardest schedule in football. Kind of an easy home schedule, which I guess is nice, but the worst, most difficult schedule on the road. Every single road game is either against a winning team or is in division, which that really only qualifies Chicago, and that's week 18, and that's always a tough game because it's the NFC North. 7 road games against playoff teams. Baltimore, Kansas City, Washington, Philly, the Rams, all on the road. Now, they have an easy home schedule. They're also one of the best teams at covering the spread on the road, at home, sorry. This should lead and almost has to lead to many, many wins and some lopsided wins at home. You can't get out of a difficult schedule when you're the Lions and you're in that division and you're home and you're first place, but this year is just extra difficult because of the NFC East and the AFC North, plus bonus games against Tampa, the Rams, and Kansas City. I mean, at Kansas City is they tack it on because of where you finished in your division, and it happens to be in Kansas City. Great game for fans, really tough game if you are trying to prepare for that. So this is why people are maybe off the bandwagon for Detroit. The schedule is just very daunting. Here's another reason why some people could be off this team. We talked about their close game record, 7-2. That reverts a lot of the time. Turnover differential, fumble luck, that's probably going to revert. They went, even though they were very good in 2023, they added 3 wins in 2024. That probably will revert. Strength of schedule, they were kind of middle of the pack last season. Looks really tough this season. That's a bad metric. Now, their O-line is excellent. Their D-line definitely needs depth and improvement. There are signs of negative progression. And if you're going to go with an over, you have to get comfortable with this road schedule. You have to try to find wins on the road. Um, in terms of against the spread leans, week 2 versus the Bears, they're only a 4.5 point favorite. That should be 7.5. And week 4 against the Browns, they're 10.5. You could bet them at 14.5. I think they cover that game. The Browns are awful. And week 10, week 10, they've circled this one. Everyone circled this one at Commanders. They're a slight underdog. They probably shouldn't be an underdog at all. I think some of the public is going to be all over the Commanders in this one. So this one is something you could take advantage of right now, or bet that this grows and they're a 3 point favorite or 3.5 point favorite come week 10, which you're getting even better value. To conclude, good home schedule and good matchups. They've just been incredible at covering the spread over the last couple of seasons, and nothing really would indicate that that's about to stop. Don't tease, but if you have to, throwing the Lions in there, never a bad idea. This is a ridiculously talented team. So, do I think that they've addressed their questions regarding the defense and whether they can bounce back and return to glory? I gave them a maybe and a maybe. They are questions for a reason. In terms of the over/under, they brought this down to 10 and a half. I was expecting this to be 11 and a half. So I'm going to take the over. I think they go from anywhere between 10 and 12 wins. There should be poised for another playoff run. I get why people would be off this team, or at least be very wary of them. It's a tough, tough schedule, 11 games against playoff teams from last season. And there are signs of regression, loss of coach, tough matchup. This is just a ridiculous roster on both sides of the ball. And they could regress by 4 wins. They could go from 15 wins to 11 wins, and you're still going to hit this over. So, because of that, I like the over. I don't love the over. I certainly see what everybody else sees when it comes to this team potentially falling apart and missing the playoffs, but it's the Lions, and I really like the talent that they have and their ability to win big games and take big swings and make big gambles. And this show's about gambling, so I love a team like the Lions. That concludes the Lions, and tomorrow we have. I was getting good at this. Now I can forget who tomorrow is. Tomorrow's You'd think I'd have these in front of me by now. Ah, yes. The Green Bay Packers tomorrow. That should be a super fun one. Another NFC North team. That's a team that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on, myself included. So until tomorrow, thank you. That is the show.